Welcome to Content Strategy with the Crimson Sage. I'm your host, none other than the Crimson Sage himself, and today we'll be looking at content strategy. More specifically, we're going to explore basic content strategy maturity levels in organizations. By the end of the video, you should understand what an organization can do at the basic level and determine whether your organization is operating at that level. This is part of a series of videos designed to help you improve how your organization plans and manages its content. If you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe so you'll be notified when I release future videos. So before we jump into the good stuff, let's make sure we're on the same page in terms of what content strategy is. Basically, if you have a plan or process about how you create and manage your content, then you have a content strategy. Content strategy is just a defined means for planning, creating, reusing content, adding names and tags, publishing, and storing your content. Alright, so let's dive in. In a basic content strategy, someone, let's call her Mary, wants to create a policy for her company. She starts by creating a basic content plan that identifies the core subjects and policy objectives. Based on that plan, Mary writes the policy as a document. We'll assume that Mary has done her research and received approval from whomever needs to review the policy. When she's done, she saves a copy to her computer. This copy becomes what we call the policy version 1.0. Mary then emails a copy of the policy to everyone who needs it. There are 100 people in the organization, so we now have 100 copies of the original policy. Those 100 people may save the policy in any number of ways, from keeping it in their email folder, saving it to their hard drive, or printing it out. Some might even ignore it or accidentally delete it. A year goes by and Mary is asked to make some changes to the policy. So she makes changes to the original policy and saves it with a new file name on her computer. This new copy becomes policy 1.1. Mary then emails the revised policy to everyone who needs to receive it. This is usually where we start seeing the problems associated with the basic content strategy. So here's what typically happens at the basic maturity level for content strategy. Let's assume that 90% of the people start using the new version of the policy without an issue. The remaining 10%, however, either lose the new version or get the new version mixed up with the older version. In either case, we've now got 10% of the organization using the wrong version of the policy. This problem is made worse over the next year. When someone can't find something, they usually ask a coworker or they're going to Google it. Because everyone is saving the policies in any number of ways, it's easy to lose a policy. Let's say Herb asks Frank for a copy of the policy. Frank looks up a copy of the policy and emails it to Herb. The problem is, Frank is part of that 10% that lost the original policy and ends up sending Herb the wrong copy of the policy. To make matters worse, Mary decides she really likes how part of Policy 1.0 is written and copies that piece into a new document we're going to call Guide 1.0. We've now got a copy of a small piece of the policy in a guide. Mary writes her guide and then emails it out to everyone who needs to receive it. The next time Mary updates the original policy, she changes that little piece that was used in Guide 1.0 but does not remember to change it in the guide. We now have two conflicting pieces of information floating around the organization in approved documents. So we've talked about people losing documents as a key problem in the basic content strategy. In basic content strategy, users either set up their own file management or have one imposed on them. In either case, there usually isn't much thought into how file management is set up. Typically, a series of folders are set up which seem simple enough at the time. That is until the original folders get so filled with files that someone decides to add another layer to help differentiate the files and make them easier to find. Of course, there's no consistent naming to the files or folders, so what made sense a year or 5 ago may not make sense now. As time goes by, extra layers are added until you need to dig through multiple layers and filter out hundreds of folders to find what was supposed to be conveniently located in a nicely named folder. Sound familiar? Alright, so we've proven that we can create content and send it to people who need to read it. But let's take a look at what this looks like from an overall point of view. The policy is out there and being used by people. great. But 10% of the people are using the wrong version of that policy. This number may be spreading since people may be getting policies from the wrong source. And people have conflicting information from content shared in different policies. So this is what a basic content strategy looks like. The truth is, most organizations operate like this, especially the big ones. So why does this happen? Well, basic content strategy is easy to put together, and it's a step up from the true chaos of no content strategy. So we now know what a basic content strategy looks like. Our next video is going to explore some of the concepts of the developing content strategy, which aims to correct the issues that we identified during the basic strategy. If you like what you've seen, please remember to like this video and subscribe. Post your comments below. That's all for now. I am the Crimson Sage, your wise man in all manner of making your content usable and effective. Until later.